Okay, my name is Viola Rich. I grew up, born and raised in Axton, Virginia. Not a good childhood. I guess that's where my problems started in my childhood. At the age of 5, my mom left. She was being abused by my father. So she left, and I was left there with 4 brothers and 3 sisters. My father was I realized today, a raging alcoholic, very abusive in every aspect of the word, mentally, physically, sexually. He was very abusive. I hated my mom. I hated her. I didn't realize it until I got into recovery that I carried that sense of abandonment. Why wasn't I enough? Why you had to leave me? What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I lovable? Things of that nature. And I didn't realize it until I got into recovery, the stigma and the effect that incident had on my life. I didn't want to be there, but I had nowhere else to go. At the age of 18, the opportunity presented itself to move with that older sister of mine, and I moved out of my mom's house. And that was my first experience with real experience with drugs, cocaine. Sad to say, most of my experiences with drugs came from my family. My sister introduced me to crack cocaine at that time, but I didn't get hooked on it. I smoked a lot of weed, drank a lot, but I didn't get hooked on crack at that time. Several years later, the older brother that killed my dad, he's got a twin, and he reintroduced me to crack cocaine, and from that time I was addicted. I realize today, the more I work on me, I realize a lot of things that I did when I was using that I can't blame myself for, because if I do, I'll stay there. Like I said, as I got clean, I did get clean for about 9 years in church. I gave my life to the Lord, and I turned my life around. And people ask me to this day what happened, because I was clean for 9 years, and people ask me to this day, what happened? What happened to you? Why would you go back to that? And I've never had an answer for them until this time around. I went back out after those 9 years, and my disease of addiction ran rapid. It was the worst I've ever, worst it's ever been in my addiction. I lived to get high, and I got high to live. Every day, I plotted and schemed and manipulated and lied and did whatever I had to do in order to get my drug of choice, which was at the time crack cocaine. I used other substances, but that was my drug of choice. I did that for another 10 years. I can remember my last run like it was yesterday, and I pray to God that I never forget it. And from that time, I went on what we call a binge. Every day I got high because I didn't want to think about how disappointed those 2 people must have been of the life that I was living. I didn't want to hurt. I didn't want to feel. I didn't want to care. And so for the next 4 months, I went on a binge. And I remember walking up a snowstorm to get drugs, thinking, what the hell are you doing? But I did it anyway. And that Sunday morning, I called a friend. The roads were iced up. And I said, hey, I need a ride. And they was like, I can't get out, it's an ice storm. And I said, I'll give you $100. That's how desperate I was. I said, I'll give you $100. I need to go pick up some dope. I just want to go get a hotel room. And was praying that one or two things happened. Either I didn't leave that hotel room or I left that hotel room with the solution on how to stop living this life. I really at that time didn't care which one happened. I didn't care. When I was getting ready to leave the shelter, I was had been approved, if you want to say, of going into the recovery apartments that Piedmont owned, and that was my first introduction to CRP. I made it very clear that I want to have a solid foundation before I got back out there in the workforce. I wanted to make sure my foundation was solid. I didn't want to go out there and jump and get a job and had $300 or $400 in my pocket and the triggers were still there. So it was a couple of months. I was at the apartments. That was my first introduction. The lady there said, we got a program that we're a part of that will help you with some skills, job training skills, resume skills, self-esteem classes, sister classes where you can bond and things of that nature. And it's like, okay, let's do it. That was my first introduction to CRP. I met Miss Lisa, Miss Jane, and it was another lady there, Miss Tanya Ingram at the time. And I was like, wow, these are some strong, educated women. And I like that. I want what y'all have. How can I get that? I said, I've told y'all from day one, there's never a time that y'all will call me that I won't be available. Y'all have done so much for me in my life. Y'all have been such a positive influence in my life. I'm never not going to be a part of CRP. I care how clean and sober I am, how many years down the line, if y'all need me, I'm here. Y'all have been instrumental in my recovery. And I used to say all the time early in recovery, I have a recovery team. I've never had a team of anybody in my life that didn't want something from me. And all they want to do is pour into my life. And they didn't want anything back. They didn't say, well, Viola, if you do this for us, we'll do that for you. They poured a lot of love and understanding and respect. I had lost that from people. I hadn't lost it, I gave it away. It reintroduced me to morals and respect. It gave me the courage to say, yeah, we can do this. You can do this. You can do this. And the more they kept saying it, the more I felt it. That was that glimmer of hope that they began to give me to know, you know what, I can put my life back together. I can stay clean this time. I can do this.